Hey, it's James, Parents' Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. So you have to start realizing that you're in a court of law and you need to be able to prove everything you're thinking about or talking about. So when it's time to go to court, if you want to tell the court, you know, what CPS said, what a guardian ad litem said, what the mother said, what the father said, what the doctor said, or whatever, or if later on you want to file a bar complaint against your attorney for their ineffective assistance or ineffective assistance of counsel, malpractice, or whatever, or you want to hold an attorney accountable for not giving you court papers or keeping you updated on stuff, phone calls don't matter. Phone calls don't exist. When you call somebody, there's no record of it. This is one of the biggest lapses in common sense that fathers usually have. Well, I called my attorney several times, but he won't answer. Write him, fax him, and send him a letter demanding that he comply with the rules of professional conduct. If you don't know how to do that and you haven't got a consultation with me, then keep letting your attorney screw you over. Keep spending thousands and thousands on your attorney. You don't spend time with me to try and figure out how to light a fire under your attorney. Or don't get my demand letter packet that's in my store, which is worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars because of all the demand letter packets and options that are in there. Just keep not caring about your case enough to put some effort into it. You need to do a little bit more than just, this isn't like when you return something to Walmart, you go on the exchange line and you say, okay, I didn't like this product. And then you show a receipt and then it's easy. You have to go into a court of law and, convince a judge that a guardian ad litem has ignored evidence that you presented the guardian ad litem regarding the best interest of the children. When I've dealt with guardian ad litems, every single guardian ad litem report that was ever filed in my case was thrown out or disregarded because I got on the offensive and I wasn't like your stupid attorney saying, oh, don't piss off the guardian ad litem. You're in a court where you're competing against other people and you have a right to zealously advocate for your position and demand justice for your children. And when somebody opposes that, you have a right to argue with them. That's why you go to court and you have things like oral argument and you brief the court and you present your argument because you're arguing and your stupid punk sellout attorney says, don't argue with the guardian ad litem. Don't argue with the court. You see how enragingly asinine this is? You guys should be able to figure this out on your own. And you have, because deep down in your conscience, you know there's something wrong here with the way everybody operates. But I can't put my finger on it, and I'm scared of everybody. So I'm just going to be a little coward, and I won't speak up for justice or what's right. I talked about the Milgram Experiment. If you Google Milgram Experiment, that proved and showed that 80% of people will not stand up for what's right. Don't be part of the 80% of zombie, brainless sheep and punk sissy cowards who won't stand up for something, especially when your life with your kid is on the line. So when your life with your kid is on the line, you will want to send letters to the guardian ad litem so there's a paper trail. You should be concerned about the mother's abuse. You should be concerned about the mother talking bad about the father and poisoning the children. And look at these psychological studies about how when children are put in the middle of parental conflict, it causes them trauma. You should be concerned about this. If you just sit back and wait and blindly trust a radical feminist, man-hating, guardian ad litem who got molested by her dad, or a tree-hugging, social worker of a guardian ad litem who doesn't shave her legs and stuff, that they're going to be on your side. The other lack of common sense is for people to sit back and wait for somebody else to do them justice. You are a litigant in a court case that you filed paperwork for, so you can aggressively, zealously advocate for yourself. And if your attorney isn't doing that, they're not doing their job. They're violating the rule of professional conduct that talks about competence and diligence. And if you read the rules of professional conduct, like 100% of my audience should have done already, and if you haven't done it, that means you're not paying attention, you don't care, or you're not looking at enough free videos because you're obviously not getting a consultation with me. And if you're cheap and you don't want to spend money on me, you should at least watch all my free videos because this is golden information to help you with your life with your kids. And you need to know all aspects of this because if you're dumb enough to keep an attorney and have an attorney, you should be lighting a fire under that attorney to do their job. They work for you. If you have a guardian ad litem, you should know how to deal with the guardian ad litem and the rules and the laws and the case law that governs a guardian ad litem's allegiance to the children. And if your guardian litem's corrupt, then you could argue with the court. Like I just said in a couple of videos ago, you should show the example of the worst types of guardian litem. I have a guy in Florida. He did his own research because he's taking the initiative and found a case where guardian litems dropped the ball and some kids ended up dead. So that would be a great example to go to court with and say, just because the person has the title guardian litem doesn't mean they're telling the truth. They've dropped the ball on stuff, or CPS has dropped the ball on stuff, or parenting evaluators dropped the ball on stuff. I've given you guys examples of that. And 95% of people don't even want to use these examples because it'll take you effort to click a mouse and click on an article or something. You'd have to actually read it, and you want somebody else to rescue your kid for you. And nobody's showing any signs of doing it. So why don't you grow some balls and actually do it yourself? Just like anybody, like we've seen, there's one cool movie that has a great plot. Oh my gosh, what was the name of it? The Mel Gibson movie where his kid was kidnapped and these guys were holding the kid ransom and stuff. And then he flipped it around on him and said, you know, my kid's going to end up dead if I pay that $1 million. I think the movie was called Ransom. And Mel Gibson was rich. Somebody kidnapped his kid and said, give us $1 million or whatever it was. And he said, I'm here. And then he went on the news. It's a great, I've never seen a plot like this before. So it's kind of different. I love movies with different plots. Instead of the same old. But in Ransom, he went on the news. He said, my kid is kidnapped. I have $1 million here on the table. But it's not for the kidnapper. It's for anybody that brings my kid home, whether the kidnapper is alive or dead. So basically, I think that's what he said, something like that. Now, the entire world is looking for the kidnapper. So now the kidnapper can't show his face or be, out in public in a way where he might get caught or something like that. So then the kidnapper pretended to be somebody who rescued the child, and then he got found out. But it's the guy who played Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump that played the kidnapper here. But create a paper trail. Now go ahead and call if you want. But when you have an important matter, you need to, and when you write a letter to somebody, you don't say, please do this for me, I beg of you. You say, do this. I expect to hear, you always give a deadline. I expect to hear from you within 48 hours, 72 hours, 24 hours. Then you follow up. I did not hear from you within 48 hours. You are committing malpractice under the rules of professional conduct. Get back to me within 24 hours if you're talking to an attorney. If you're talking to guardian litem, I didn't hear from you, so I assume that you don't care about the welfare of the children, the psychological and emotional aspect, because I did not hear from you. Or you say, I heard from you, like you feed stuff to guardian litem, then you put them on the stand at trial and say, did you investigate this, that, or that? Why not? I didn't know that was a problem. What about this email that the father sent you? What about this follow-up email? You didn't see all that stuff? See, if you don't have a paper trail, you have nothing then they can get away with murder. Stop acting like a phone call is a recorded conversation that you can bring to court. Use a paper trail. Write letters. If you don't know how to do that, get my demand letter packet in my store or get a consult with me and learn how to do this stuff. There's so many people who call me up or they text me, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that. Get a consult and learn. That's like somebody who signs up for a driver's ed class and sits in class every day, raises their hand. I don't know how to drive. I don't know how to turn the wheel. I don't know how to brake. I don't know how to put on the gas. That's what they're doing. They're teaching you. And then you go out and you practice driving with an instructor who has a brake on his side of the vehicle for safety reasons, and you go out and do it. This is just you guys. Some of you guys act so insane that you say, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to do that. Learn how to do it and go do it. You've done it with everything else in life, with a job, with school, with a game or a sport that you play. Nobody ever goes into a Monopoly game and says, I don't know how to play Monopoly. I want to play, but I don't know how to play. And then you learn how to play and do it. Stop being so beat down mentally or triggered emotionally that paralyzes you from taking any action in your kid's life. Your kid's life is on the line. You don't know how to do something? Learn it. You never heard of something before? Learn it. James won over and over in court. I don't know whether I can trust him. Go look at my winning court orders, and then you make a leap of faith that I'm not doctoring those court orders. Meanwhile, you totally trust your attorney in blind faith, and they've never shown you anything that shows their experience, what's worked, winning documents or anything. You just trust them in blind faith and will spend 10 to 100 times as much on them as you would on me. And I got all kinds of testimonies. I got my winning court documents. Use some common sense here. This is the number one issue outside of a guy getting courageous and overcoming their fears. Use some common sense. Stop acting like this arena of family law is different than anything else you did in life. Anything else you learned in life, you had to learn it, study it, or work hard at it. You've had unfair things happening. You should have got a job and somebody else got it because they kissed somebody's butt or they faked or lied on their resume or whatever. So then you worked harder and you applied again or you went to another job. Stuff is unfair in life. This isn't the only arena that things are unfair. And when you run across something unfair, then you work harder to overcome the unfair stuff. Treat this like everything else. Yeah, it has to do with your kids, so it's more traumatizing, but it's not different. You guys, you throw out every piece of common sense you've ever used. You throw out, oh, I don't, this is hard, or I have to do some research, or I have to pay somebody. This doesn't make any sense. I should automatically have my kids. I shouldn't have to fight for something. Men, especially, you're not the first group in the history of the world who had to fight for something after receiving an injustice. Every group of every ethnicity, gender, category of people have had to fight for something. Unions for work. Everybody had to fight for some injustice. You're not immune to it. Stop being a prissy little diva thinking you're automatically rewarded something because you deserve it. So learn how to write letters and create a paper trail so you can show the court and prove stuff later on. Stop relying on phone calls.